Welcome to the 2024 Morganhill Chamber Conference at Kiwanis of the Morganhill Candidate Forum. My name is Nick Gage, CEO and President of the Morganhill Chamber of Commerce, and it's my honor to introduce today's guest. Our intention for tonight's forum is really twofold. The first one is to create a learning opportunity for our community, hear directly from the candidates on their vision of Morganhill with specific responses how their platform will be able to best execute their vision. Second one is to provide an environment for our candidates to identify and speak to potential strengths and hurdles they may face as our elected officials. And the third one is to hear from each candidate on how they will best represent themselves and our community as elected public servants. Now, the forum tonight will revolve around three central themes: the alignment of community engagement and public trust, the importance and influence on our nonprofit organizations' community advocacy efforts, and economic development. Now, before I introduce our three moderators for tonight's session, who will introduce our panel candidates and ground rules, I would like to acknowledge that all mayoral and council member candidates running for office were invited to speak. Also, as our agenda is tightly scheduled for tonight's forum, to minimize possible disruptions that may hinder our candidates' ability to hear and respond to questions, I'm going to ask everyone to please turn off your cell phone and laptop in a second. Thank you. Now, it is my honor to introduce tonight's candidates forum moderators. To my immediate left, right? We have Margaret Graham, Kiwanis Club President, Pat President. Morganhill Chamber of Commerce's Board of Treasurers, and co-president of the Government Relations Committee, and last but certainly not least, Larry Carr, Morganhill Chamber of Commerce Board of Treasurers, and also president of the Economic Development and Government Relations Committee. So welcome to our moderators tonight. Thank you for your time and your investment in the last really 2 months in developing tonight's forum. It's been a great collaboration with the Morganhill Chamber of Commerce and the Kiwanis Club of Morganhill. This is our second annual, and we're excited to be here with you tonight. And I also want to applaud the audience tonight for being here in person. Thank you for spending time with us for this evening session. So with that as a short prelude to tonight's forum, I'd like to thank all who are in attendance tonight, those that are watching on Facebook Live, as well as those who will review the forum, as it's going to be posted on the Morganhill Chamber of Commerce's YouTube channel and our digital streaming series of podcasts. So with that, I'm going to hand over the mic to Larry Carr, and I'm going to get out of our panelists' way here.
All right, thank you, Nick. Candidates, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're going to start tonight with 3-minute introductions from each of you, and we are going to start here with Mayor Church. And I'm sorry, there will be a running clock here in front of you, and please don't make me cut you off.
No, I thought it was 2. For some reason, I was thinking the instructions said 2. So anyway, my wife and I have lived in Morganhill for 31 years. We've raised our 3 girls here, and they attended Morganhill schools. With 10 years of executive leadership experience and 10 years of economic development experience, and serving as your mayor for the last 2 years, I'm confident my skills and experience is what's needed to move our city forward. It's been an incredible honor serving as your mayor, and I'm looking forward to continuing in that role. I take my role as your local elected representative seriously, which is why I make myself available to residents, community members, and others. What I ran on 2 years ago is still relevant today. Number 1, public safety. I'm proud to say that when I took office, we restored respect and trust toward our police department and its officers and support personnel. And I'm proud to say that I've been endorsed by the Morganhill Police Officers Association, CAL FIRE Local 2881, and I recently received the endorsement of our Community Service Officers Association. Number 2, economic development and job creation. And I'm proud to say that over the last 2 years, we've seen new businesses open and established businesses expand their operations, creating more jobs for local residents, more job opportunities. Number 3, tourism. I've been encouraging the other council members to join me in making our youth, sports, and recreation one of the highest priorities for our city. This will provide better opportunities for our residents to participate, as well as generate greater economic activity for our local businesses and much needed revenue for our city. Number 4, local control. With 65% of our residents traveling out of Morganhill to their workplaces, we must protect our commercial and industrial lands in order to continue our effort and to create more local jobs, thus doing our part to reduce the traffic impacts on 101. Those are the 4 items I'm running on. I thought they were relevant 2 years ago. They're relevant still today, and that's what I'm running on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Turner. Councilwoman Martinez-Beltran.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, everyone, for having us here. Thank you to the Chamber. I appreciate the opportunity to get to know more of the voters. And many of you, over 8 years ago, have been working with the City of Morgan Hill since then, for the past 8 years. I think that this mayor's race is an important choice that we're making this year. We face a negative operating margin over the next few years, and we'll need informed and responsible allocation of city funds. We'll look to so many to come together to keep us going during this hard point in time. And we need to set everything else aside so that we can collaborate, knowing that we all live in the same community and that we all stand to benefit. I have the experience that we need for this office. I've been on the Planning Commission for 2 years. I've served as your city councilwoman for the past 6 years. I've earned my master's in urban planning and economic development from the NYU Wagner School of Public Service. I've done community events, bringing the community together. I have been through COVID, solidifying regional relationships. But I also have the accomplishments, and some of the accomplishments I'll share with you that I've done over council, and there are more. Standing with voters against the distribution centers, initiating and championing the climate action plan, increasing and supporting cultural celebrations and engagement via the Los Muertos Altar, which happens right here, the Hanukkah Festival, LGBTQ flag raising, local festivities, Indian flag raising, Filipino market, car shows, disseminating information in Spanish. I've also helped fund public safety as one of my accomplishments. I called for the firehouse to be funded, which had sat as an unfunded liability for too long. And I also called for conversations that resulted in us getting a mental health clinician for PD, an unhoused specialist, and I did the first webinar in Spanish with our chief, which has now brought about a Spanish-speaking community program on PD. I understand what levers to pull, resources we have, and processes to use. I leverage collective power of private sector, nonprofit, school, government, all of us working together as one. I have the relationships and am endorsed by those in our community and our leaders because I've built strong relationships and through my legislative efforts and more. I'm endorsed by longtime effective local leaders such as City Council member Renee Spring, who's a champion for our community, more MHUSD Mary Patterson trustee, Ivan Rosales Morales, John Horner, San Jose Council members David Cohen and Sergio Jimenez, Board of Supervisor past President Cindy Chavez, current President Susan Ellenberg, and our current County Supervisor Sylvia Arenas, Assembly members Evan Lowe and Ash Kalra, and I'm very proud to carry the endorsement of Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, and that is just some of my endorsers. What I'm most proud of is being endorsed by the community and being endorsed by you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to District C and Soraya Iwanaga.
Hello, thank you, Chamber and Kiwanis, for having me here, and thank you to all of you for coming out to give each one of us a chance and an opportunity to get to know us. My name is Soraya Iwanaga, and I'm running for District C, which is the northwest side of town, in case you don't know. I've called Morgan Hill for many years my home. My husband and I were blessed to bring our boys here to raise them. Really, they were the deciding factor in coming to Morgan Hill. We wanted to raise them in a town that felt safe, and we got to know our neighbors. That's what drew us to this town, and much of what drew us then is still alive today. I love how friendly our neighborhood is. The downtown is a great place to come. It's a town that is dear to me, which is in great part why I decided to run. I feel that our town has been growing at such a rapid pace that it needed a strong voice to advocate to keep sorry, there's a little bug flying around. Some of the things that keep our town, the essence of our town alive, is what I'm going to be fighting for. But I've been a nurse since 2003, and I currently work at Dominican Hospital in Santa Cruz. My experience as a nurse care coordinator has helped to prepare me for becoming a member of City Council. I have a really, really strong understanding of what the importance of listening to people, of taking time to see where they're coming from and what What bothers them? Why does it bother them? That's what you have to do as a nurse. You have to take the time to really pay attention. And I would bring that with me as a city council member. I value critical thinking and understand that most solutions are going to take creative thinking and willingness to compromise. If elected, some of my priorities are going to be number one, public safety. That's just number one. Number two would be improving healthcare access. And this is in part because I'm a nurse, but I really feel that we're underserved as a community. And I'm going to be pushing for that here in our town. Number three would be fiscal sustainability and economic growth. Number four, local control over our own growth. And number five, supporting our youth and senior citizens of Morgan Hill. Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing with District C is Michael Orozco.
I would like to thank the chamber, of which I'm a member, and the Kiwanis for this opportunity to speak to the public and present myself and explain why I feel I'm the right candidate for District C's representation. My name is Michael Orozco, and I'm a 15-year resident of Morgan Hill. I was born and raised in Turlock, California, a small town in the Central Valley. My first experience in Morgan Hill was at the age of 16 when I drove my parents over Pacheco Pass to a flower show and conference at the Flying Lady restaurant. I was immediately starstruck with this town. After high school, I joined the military, worked as a carpenter, continued with my education, and moved to the Silicon Valley in the late 90s following the dot-com race. I resided in the South Bay, but always had my eye on Morgan Hill. It was in 2009 when I joined you all here and finally began living. Over the last 15 years, I have made many relationships from social, business, and within our local government. As I lived and served and worked here, I was appointed to our City Planning Commission by Mayor Tate during the period of our voter-approved residential development control system. I was also part of the team that drafted our 2035 plan. In the Planning Commission, I learned lessons on how our local government works. Many of our current and former mayors and council members started in the Planning Commission and have proven themselves prepared for the office as I believe I am. I'm a business owner and a job creator. My wife and I run an electrical engineering consulting business downtown. My employees and I are living the live and work in Morgan Hill dream. A dream I want more to achieve. Morgan Hill can become so much more than a bedroom community for the Silicon Valley. I want to help foster commercial and industrial growth. I plan to work on the council to adopt new policies for small business growth and new strategies for attracting diverse industry with quality jobs. I am the independent in this race. I'm a registered independent and come with an open mind and a willingness to compromise. Compromise today seems to be the dirty word no one is willing to say out loud, but I want to champion it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Moving on to District A is David Dindek.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thank you, Kiwanis and Chamber, for this opportunity. I am David Dindek. I'm a candidate for City Council District A. I've lived in Morgan Hill since the late 1980s. I own Bubbles and Brew downtown. I've owned that for about 10 and a half years. I'm a realtor. I'm president of the Downtown Association. I'm in leadership. I just graduated leadership class 24, best class ever. And I've volunteered in many capacities over the years. When I moved here in the late 80s, we had a population of about 24,000, and now we're up to over 26,000. And with growth comes challenges, comes change, and particularly with crime and safety and infrastructure. I want the citizens of Morgan Hill to enjoy the same quality of life my family had growing up, and that's why I've decided to run for city council. There's three challenges that I think are major. One is public safety. I fully support police, fire, and our first responders. By my count, we are down or we are shy a few police officers, and as we grow, we're gonna need a lot more. The police officers also need to, equipment, trailer cams for one, for our large events that we want to have here. Another is housing. Sacramento has tied our hands for growth, and with some, by 2030, we're required to have 1,037 homes. Developers don't make a lot of money when there are affordable homes, and 50% of those 1037 are supposed to be affordable homes. So what that means is they have to triple that, and pretty much that 1037 means about 3,000 homes that built, and that's why we're seeing this, and it's all cut from Sacramento. We need to lobby Sacramento for more and equal housing alternatives and resolutions. We aren't LA, we're not San Jose, we're a small town. Third is economic development. We are right to create and recruit R&D, advanced manufacturing, and health and science businesses to our town. These would bring high-paying jobs, and that's what we need to do. Rather than have taxes, we need to have business revenue. 35 seconds. I'm David Dindak, running for City Council A, and I approve this message.
Thank you.
Again, just out of respect for the candidates, I know we have a few phones that are going off, so if we can all shut down our phones and tablets during the session, I just want to make sure that we have an ample opportunity for our candidates to both hear and to respond to questions. So thank you for respecting that, and please turn off your phones, cell phones, and tablets. Thank you.
Thank you. And Candace, thank you for staying in your allotted time. We appreciate that, so we don't have to cut you off. Now we will move into questions from the panel here, and these will be 2-minute responses to these questions. At the panel's discretion, we may allow follow-up responses purely at our discretion. We'll be focusing tonight, as Nick said, on economic development, on nonprofit and community services, and council operations. So our first question tonight, and Councilwoman, you will answer first. We'll just continue down the line. The city of Morgan Hill has an ethics policy that council members, commissioners, and staff sign on to. The council also has a set of council norms to express acceptable conduct of council members during meetings and during other opportunities serving in the role as a council member. It is frequently observed during public meetings that these norms are not being used and adhered to. Will you commit your personal conduct to following these norms? And how will you personally, as a council member, demonstrate your commitment and rebuilding public trust?
Thank you for the question. I hope that when the moderators give us a chance to respond, that that's all done, judiciously. I will say that I don't see a problem with that. We're all adults here and professionals here, and quite frankly, I think that there are other things that we could spend our time on. We all sign an ethics commitment. I think I have shown the highest standard of ethics in serving and in my role, and commitment to this council for the past 8 years working with the city. I by no means think there's anywhere where that, where I have not appreciated that or given my best to the city. I do that every single day. It is an absolute honor and privilege to represent you. I don't take it for granted. I know exactly who's put me in that seat every time I cast a vote in a decision. And when I am on the dais, I am doing the people's business, and there is nothing that is going to get in my way as far as personalities or values or anything else. We're there to do business as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Same questions, Fred.
Okay. Well, I have not been on the dais, but I can tell you from experience of what I have to deal with. You do have a job in front of you, and whether you like the person or not that you have to deal with, you have to be respectful. You have to be willing to listen to people's ideas, and you have to be willing to, I'm not always going to get what I want. If it's what's best for this person, for the community, I'm willing to bend and concede on certain things, unless it's something that's so, golly, it's such a big passion for me. But I would hope that the people that I'm dealing with are going to be just as respectful and listen to me as well. I would hope that all of us would do that.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, thank you for the question. You know, for starters, I would go back to my record on the planning commission. There, I came prepared. I read the multi-hundred-page packet in the short period of time from Friday night at like 7 p.m. or 5 p.m. until Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock when the planning commission meeting started. I had to be fully prepared along the ways. The historian Joe Mueller was answering and asking questions left and right, reading all that, getting all the public comment read prior to walking in there, just being prepared and acting like a professional, ready to serve and be ready. And I worked with former council member Renee Spring on the planning commission, or I'm sorry, current council member Renee Spring on the planning commission. And he's our council member, and former council member John McKay. I worked with our councilwoman here, Yvonne, as well, and quite effectively. We didn't always agree, and it was interesting when we did agree from maybe polar opposite approaches on the planning commission, but we did it with decorum, and I did it with decorum. In terms of ethics, I'll point to the fact that I'm running and funding this race myself. And I've asked people, your support in my name and in your friends, and maybe a sign, a handshake, but I'm beholden to no one other than myself and my desire to help the city of Morgan Hill. So I don't think my ethics could ever be an issue in terms of what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this for Morgan Hill because I love it and I love what this town represents, and I want to help maintain Morgan Hill's dream.
Thank you, David.
This is almost like a no-brainer. We have to have when we're representing 46,000 people up on the dais. You have to have respect for each other. You have to show up on time. You have to listen to each other. You have to collaborate. I've done a lot of volunteering over the years. Back in 06, 07, I was served on the Bicycle Trails Advisory Committee. We're the people that drove through town and major bikeways and pressure sensors on the stoplights. Downtown Association president, owner of a Bubbles with 12 employees. Leadership Morgan Hill, when we had 18 people, we had to find one thing to do for our project. I'm that person who totally is ethical. I collaborate with everyone. I bring people together, and that's what I do.
Thank you. We move the mic down and
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, actions. Actions on the dais or actions in the community matter. And so it's a matter of, we may not like how things are going on the dais, and it's a matter of how do we react respectfully toward our colleagues. That's the important thing. And even in the community, do we have respect for our community members? Do we have respect for our law enforcement? Do we have respect for our public safety officers? Do we have respect for the residents, our business owners, and others? Those things are important. Those things matter. And those things determine whether there's a trust or non-trust toward elected officials. One of the reasons I actually meet with residents, business owners, community members, nonprofit personnel. I meet with a lot of people throughout the week because I do want to build that trust, that ability for community members to know that they can approach me anytime to have conversations. That trust has to continue, not just where we sit down and have coffee, but also how I act on the dais and how I act throughout the community to other people is important. And so I think it's a matter of ethics, norms. Those things must be followed. There's got to be some things that we adhere to in order to make sure that we are respectful to one another, which ultimately shows respect toward our community members.
Thank you. We'll continue on now, and
Larry, if I could just have a quick interruption.
You guys can go for it.
Has rejoined us. I want to make sure we put it right in line.
Marion Vega, running in Council District A. Thank you for joining us. We'll continue on with questions, and Ms. Iwanaga will answer the next question. And the question is, there are many costs to operate a business in Morgan Hill. Two areas we hear from business owners, operators, is the increasing cost of power through PG&E and the increased cost of broadband connectivity. While costs are increasing, reliability is questionable at best. Service outages are frequent throughout Morgan Hill and particularly downtown. What role should the city have in solving these issues? And how aggressive are you willing to be as a council member?
Okay, so thinking about the question, and hopefully I'm understanding you correctly. So you're asking us, if we're city council members, what we're willing to do to maybe put a little bit of pressure on PG&E for all the outages. You know, I think the mayor, sorry to point you out here, Mr. Mayor, but you wrote a nice letter really saying some of our frustration as a community. He put it out there on PG&E. I agree with things like this. It's something that we should voice together, and especially as city council members. You know, we're going to be talking for the people that we represent, and I think all of us are very frustrated with PG&E. I agree that we should be writing letters to them. We should be writing letters to our representatives about the state level. What are you going to do to help us out here in the city? I think that I'm more than willing to be aggressive with all those things, because I have been there when it was 110 degrees and I had no power, and we were trying to sit around one little fan that, God bless my husband, had the one generator for the one fan and the one refrigerator. So we do have to speak up. We do have to fight on behalf of the city. And if that means letters and calls and going to meetings where we have to put pressure on PG&E, I'm all for it.
Thank you. Mr. Roscoe?
Does anybody know an electrical engineer? Wow. You're running right in my wheelhouse, and you know, I got to be careful because I'm on the daily. I'm dealing with PG&E applications for new services that are typically, you know, 18 to 12 months out before, you know, you have any hope of getting that service turned on. I think one of our potential businesses that's trying to open in Morgan Hill, the grocery outlet, is waiting for PG&E service to get installed, and it's you know, it's a shame how PG&E has put us in into so many binds with our usage of electricity. And you know, and there's a couple of ways that we've kind of hurt ourselves too. I attended the quarterly budget check-in the other day, and I was watching the council on the dais as they got a report from PG&E on what's going on with our outages, and there were so many missed opportunities. Now, I happen to be an expert in electrical engineering and how medium voltage, low voltage power is distributed and protected on and off and whatnot. But I just felt like there was a lot of things that could have been said in terms of our approach on using energy. Is it just a single source that we want to be beholden to, or can we look at alternate sources? And one of the slides on that presentation was, you know, alternate sources of energy, solar, battery, and approved generators. And the first question I would have asked was, approved generators, what's the source? And they would have said natural gas. But we kind of hurt ourselves here in Morgan Hill when we say no, we're not going to deploy natural gas into our homes. And so when we cut off a viable source of energy, then, you know, we're really kind of hurting ourselves. We need to slow our roll there and wait for the appropriate time to go forward.
Mr. Dinner?
Bubbles is one of those businesses that loses power on occasion. And when we lose power, and I can speak for downtown, we could lose power from Maine all the way down to Denton. And particularly on a Friday night, our busiest nights are Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we lose power on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it just really cuts into our business revenue. That's for darn sure. I was attended the meeting that council had with PG&E, and I didn't like some of the answers. Oh, you're expected to accept outages. It's like, what? No, that's not the way it's supposed to be. I think they asked them to come back, and I believe this next time they're going to have a lot better questions for PG&E and hold them accountable. Losing power, I know at your homes it's one thing, but gosh, man, when you're trying to run a business, the best time of the week is Friday through Sunday. It's really impactful on our business. Thank you.
Ms. Vega, you have 2 minutes to answer the question. We do have a running clock here. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Well, I was a business owner in Morgan Hill, and I was affected by the power outages. And when it does happen, it's horrible. You send employees home, you lose money. But I also have family that works for PG&E, and I understand both sides of it, right? We need to look for alternative sources of energy. We just can't rely and put all of our eggs in one basket, which we do with PG&E now. And there are some times that there's nothing PG&E can do. There's fire outages that happen hundreds of miles away from here that affects our electricity. And when they're in a fire, there's nothing we can do. They do it because they're protecting us from us getting issues with the electrical. So I see both sides of the coin. One, it affects my business. One, it affects my home. And when it does, it's horrible. So I think that Morgan Hill needs to look at different alternative options for us to have electrical into our businesses, into our homes. We can't rely on PG&E 100%. And sometimes there's nothing we can do. And yes, I'm willing to be aggressive with PG&E, but at the same time, we have to understand why these problems are happening. There's fires that we can't control. When everybody's using the power, it also affects. So I think our best solution is to have tough conversations with PG&E, but also look at alternative options and have generators or have a backup system where we can say, okay, if the power outage is going to go for an X amount of time, we need to have a backup. So as citizens, we also have to plan because we can't rely on them. And obviously they're not reliable 100% of the time, but they're also trying to, help us stay afloat. So I think it's a complicated issue, but being aggressive and having those conversations with them, I think would help. Maybe we can come up with a solution where they can give us alternative solutions to help our public.
Thank you. Bring the microphone back down. Mayor Turner, you have 2 minutes for the same question.
Very good, thank you. We look at communities in Arizona where there's extreme heat for ongoing periods of time, and they don't suffer the outages that we suffer here in Morgan Hill. And so this can be provided, and it should be provided. PG&E has the ability, and they need to step up and provide the reliable services that we demand and need. This is, and we should be very aggressive. In fact, I've been aggressive with PG&E. It's these past 2 years I've asked our city manager to bring PG&E before us so we can have these conversations. Sadly, the person who ends up appearing before us doesn't have the authority really or the knowledge to answer the questions that we need answered. So as a result, I did write a letter to the CEO of PG&E. We've not heard back. I sent a letter to our state senator, David Cortese, or he will be our state senator at the first of the year. Also, I sent that same letter to Assembly Member Speaker Rivas. And this past Saturday, I had a conversation with one of the commissioners from the CPUC. And so we are aggressively, at least I am aggressively taking steps to get an audience, either with the CEO of PG&E or with the CPUC in order to talk about the challenges and frustrations that we face as a community and demands that we should be able to count on, especially when you're talking about business owners who are facing these difficult times. When their power goes out, they're losing customers, they have food or other things that are spoiling, and nobody's getting reimbursed for that. So we should have high demands for PG&E as our provider, and we should be very aggressive with them to make sure that they are providing reliable energy for us in Morgan Hill.
Thank you. Councilwoman, same question, 2 minutes.
Thanks so much. It's a difficult conundrum to be in, and we're looking to develop our economic development reach and bring businesses here, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge that we face with the lack of broadband. And these are monoliths, let's be realistic, that we're working with, right? These are not small organizations. And so, yes, we can be aggressive, but we also need to be solution-minded. We have to be bringing them solutions and asking, how can we help do that? So we've had PG&E, this wasn't the first time, they just came last month. They've come before, at least twice before us. We've had charter come before as well, Larry, you'll remember that. And we've talked about, you know, broadband, and we have talked about redundancy. And so we ask them to bring redundancy, and we've been able to get that through our lobbying efforts and through talking with them so that we have another line open for internet. But as far as PG&E, you know, I was really excited to hear Miriam talk about looking at alternative ways, because that will be part of the solution. We will not only be able to say, we demand that you do this and this and this, and we're a small city, again, looking at how we're going to be impacted by PG&E. So yes, having them continue to come with us and keeping that communication open, but also greening up and creating generators for our CCC and our CRC like we have done, and finding alternative ways of resiliency as we work through that. I've asked about the wildfire triggers and asked, you know, they've told us that they've loosened the threshold of when those trigger. And I've said, that's great. Can you please also be sure that we're not just loosening the triggers, but that we're actually updating the equipment? So those are the things that we need to continue to do. I sit on the legislative chair for SBCE, and I will do that.
Thank you. Thank you all for your answers. We're going to be moving into the section on community nonprofit services, and Margaret Graham will be leading us.
Happy to be here tonight. Thank you all for being here as well. And the question, we'll start with you, Michael. Currently in the city of Morgan Hill, the government partners with and budgets financial resources to local community organizations to put on large festivals, parades, and other citywide events. What is your vision and plan for using city dollars for these activities going forward into the future?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. And what's the big issue with community events like this, and what's been the hindrance in getting them either back after COVID and some other events? It's been safety and security. You know, I think one of the big issues is the cost of an organization to pay for the insurance in order to have the event. And so the city of Morgan Hill has a really strong opportunity to kind of decide where we want to have these events and ensure that we have a great plan to secure the residents and, of course, the other communities that want to come and enjoy our events. Our events are fantastic. You know, I love, and I've loved the ones that we've had, and some of the ones that we've lost, and our neighbors as well, from some tragic issues. I'm thankful that those issues haven't come to Morgan Hill in some of those drastic ways, but these events define Morgan Hill. They define the Morgan Hill culture of a place to come and enjoy and be spirited. You know, I'm sad about we haven't been able to achieve the Taste of Morgan Hill. And the city, I think, you know, the Taste of Morgan Hill meant so much to me. But the city has an opportunity to help with this, and by maybe potentially designating areas and having real good controls and working with the police force. I mean, the current move I've heard for our canine that we're retiring is that we're looking to get a new canine in the police force that is not going to be so much centered on finding narcotics and drugs, but ammunition and explosives. But that is going to be a big help, and I fully support that. Safety is the key. Safety so that we can grow and have fun.
Thank you, Michael. Dave?
We have a very diverse community. We have about 46 events that are put on each year that our police force has to protect us from or by. We put on the Downtown Association, we do the wine stroll, we do the brew crawl, we do safe trick-or-treat. And we pretty much fund, well, the brew crawl and wine stroll is funded by sales of tickets. And bottom line is there's too many events for the city to be able to fund. And so I support, when you have an event, you support your event by selling your tickets and doing your raffle prizes and doing whatever that takes. And it's as simple as that. Thanks.
Go ahead, Mary.
I grew up in Morgan Hill, and I looked forward all the time when I was a little kid. We would come down, put our lawn chair for the 4th of July parade. I look forward to the Mushroom Mardi Gras. Like, I would see friends that I haven't seen in 10, 15 years. So I was excited to go to those events. The Taste of Morgan Hill was a time where all the restaurants were showcased. I participated in being a guest chef, and I was excited to be part of the entire event. And I think the Morgan Hill was known for that, known for having amazing mushroom Mardi Gras. The Taste of Morgan Hill, the 4th of July parade is one of the biggest in Northern California, and people come down from San Jose, from all over the place to see it. I mean, you look around and you see all the lawn chairs, meaning that it's going to be a great turnout. I, as a resident here, also don't mind paying a fee to get into these events so we can help the city of Morgan Hill put these events on. This is something that is nostalgic, that makes Morgan Hill who it is. And if we do without those events, it just kind of, you lose sense of your community. And like I said, I look forward to them every year because I would be able to see friends from high school. We like caught up on things, and it was just an amazing event. You feel safe, you feel comfortable, you feel proud to put on the Mushroom Mardi Gras, the Taste of Morgan Hill. All the restaurants would come out and showcase and put on their best food, and then therefore like people would come from far away to just see us. And like I said, I miss those things, and I hope that we can come up with a solution where I don't mind paying the ticket to be able to be part of these events. And as a community, I think it's important for us to get those events back. And to like, public safety is a big one. So within the city of Morgan Hill, the police department, we could all work together to bring these events back. That's what makes Morgan Hill, Morgan Hill.
Thank you. Pass the mic back down to Mayor Turner.
Mind asking the question again?
Yes, of course. Currently, Morgan Hill City Government partners with and budgets financial resources to local community organizations to put on large festivals, parades, and other citywide events. What is your vision and plan for using city dollars for these activities going forward?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn between this because I don't think city money should be used necessarily for nonprofit organizations. However, there are some community events that we just begun talking about tonight that really do bring the community together and our community benefit. Costs are increasing, insurance, security costs, all of those are affecting nonprofits' ability to do these community events. And so the city is in a position to be able to help and assist with some of those. However, the city is also in a bit of a financial bind as well. And so we have some limitations that we have to consider. And so at some point, the council will probably have to try to figure out where do we begin to maybe pull back on some of the nonprofits that we're funding in order to fund others that we see as a much larger, broader community impact. And so that's part of what the council will have to kind of sort through to figure out where are those monies best spent in order to get the biggest bang for the buck when it comes to the community involvement, community impact, and bringing people together. So we've got a lot of work to do in that area. Again, I think there's money that's available we've been using for a number of years, but at some point, these costs are increasing. I've met with the police department. I have a special events task force that I've been working with the organizers of these special events, and we've been talking about these numbers, the impact, the costs. How do we get through the policies that the police department is now implementing, and how do we work through all of that? So there's going to be some real challenges as we even think about introducing new community events that also now have to stand up to the rigors of these policies and the financial impact upon them. So we've got some challenges to do, but I think there are some ways we can do that. We can use some city money, but I think we're going to find ourselves in a position to prioritize and then have limited funds in order to do some of those events.
Thank you. And over to you, Yvonne.
Thanks so much. I would say, first of all, the community programs, promotions program is about $200,000 that we use to give out to not-for-profits. And the reason this started was I was asking, how do new organizations get funding? It was just funding that had been done every year because that's what we always did. And that wasn't good enough for me. I thought there should be a process to this and how organizations and new organizations can step into the fold as well. And so in the process of doing that, that's where we came up with our community promotions program, actually. And it used to be 200,000. This year we increased it, I think, to either 225 or 230,000. I absolutely think that city government needs to be funding these not-for-profits. They put on amazing programs, and they fill the gaps and the cracks that we just simply cannot do. Like the Chamber, like Kiwanis, and like so many others that are here serving us. So I think it's important that we do that. I also think that it's important for me to let you know that I actually asked to have the conversation on special events and festivals. I had the city staff, they wrote up a memo. I had asked to have it come to council. We voted for that. It was supposed to come to council. Instead, we got a memo. We went into a special, a closed session. I was not satisfied with the memo. I asked to have some type of more information was what I was looking for, some type of a template for organizations to get. At that point, unfortunately, the mayor and some colleagues did not support that. We then went into the Mushroom Mardi Gras. It had canceled, as you know, once, came back. I worked with the whole board of the Mushroom Mardi Gras to make that happen because I grew up here. And that was like our high school reunion when we would come back. I worked with Dan Roca. I worked with Sunday Munich. I worked with Devin Spencer and the entire board. And I'm happy to say that that did go off. And we had a lot of learnings from that. And that's why we're talking about it again now.
Mayor Turner, we'll give you 1 minute to address that.
Yeah, thank you. I would just like to caution my colleague, when we talk about when in closed session, those are not, closed session conversations are not for public. And so I would just caution you to be very careful in how you talk about whether it's votes or discussions with closed session with council members and legal. So please be careful with what you're saying.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'm well aware of what the closed session has. I don't need the cautionary. I have said that very publicly. I asked for the memo, and so it's no secret that I was asking for a template of how we do special events, because I think that not-for-profit organizations need to know what kind of funding they need to come up with, what it's going to cost them to do it, how many volunteers they need, what the security is, what the limitations are, what fencing we're requiring. So I asked, let's get a template. Let's have them understand and get an idea of what it is that you need to bring to the table for that to happen. And that's when we got the memo back, that kind of gave some outline. But again, it wasn't enough information. And the reason I know that is because I myself have led organizations like Nueva Esperanza that I helped co-found for the Latino community and does cultural events like Dia de los Muertos, which we've done for 5 years, like a holiday posada where over 300 people come to.
Thank you.
So I know.
Thank you, Yvonne. Down to Dave.
Again, my caution was about when you talk about votes and discussions pertaining to those closed sessions, you need to be very careful.
Thank you. We'll go back to Scott. Thank you. All right.
She still hasn't answered.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
I felt like thank you for remembering. I didn't get to answer that question. So again, can you repeat the question, because it seems like we went into a different subject?
Of course, we'll circle back down to it. Currently, Morgan Hill City Government partners with and budgets financial resources to local community organizations to put on large festival, parades, and other citywide events. What is your vision and plan for using city dollars for these activities going forward?
So I, like myself, I am a huge fan of festivals because I agree it brings the community together. I didn't grow up in Morgan Hill, but I still get to run into a bunch of people from San Jose that come to our 4th of July parade, and it's nice to see old faces come together. But the reality, though, is we live in a world where violence is here. There is nothing we can do about that. We see it on the news all the time. So I understand when the police are stressed about bringing in, large numbers of people. My understanding from speaking briefly with the chief of police, they follow really strict guidelines. They actually follow the Department of Homeland Security guidelines when they're considering what to do for keeping us safe, which I have a huge appreciation for. So, going forward, I'm all for coming up with a plan where maybe we do pay a nominal fee. I don't want to stress families out because actually that's been a great source of free entertainment for me as a mom with my boys when they were little. Like, let's go to the festivals. You know, you don't have to worry about paying an entrance fee. But I think we've gotten to the point where we are going to have to consider that as a reality. And if for nothing else, it's to keep us safe in the end, because we've got to pay for the police that are going to keep us safe. We're going to have to pay for whatever infrastructure we need to bring in to make these festivals happen, because I do miss the Taste of Morgan Hill. I love that thing. So am I going to be supportive of it? Yes. And I'll work with whatever organizations. Do we need to fundraise to come up with the money for it ahead of time? I'm willing to do that and help them out.
Thank you. All right, so David, we're back down to you for the next question. And this is following up on the question about citywide events. And those of us who are in community organizations, we have this conversation all the time. What is your view about, and where is the balance between the need for proper security and public safety and the desire of our community for large public events, especially in our downtown area?
Hit me one more time.
Where's the balance? So we all know the police department has said publicly they would like every event to be at the sports complex with one entry and one exit detectors. That excludes our downtown from events. Where's the balance? In your view, where is that balance?
Once again, we are understaffed police-wise, and they need more equipment. Trailer cameras would really help with the security part of this. We do follow, or the city does follow, the DHS rules where other cities do not. And I think it's a matter of with this task force, and one of the members of this task force who is very knowledgeable about these things, developing that balance between the police and the security. We need the security, we need the cops. But we also want to keep our town like the Andy and Mayberry, like I always say. You know, the downtown should be, our parade should be downtown, our Mushroom Fest should be downtown, those things should be downtown. So that there is that need, and it's just a matter of getting together with law enforcement and finding that middle of the road where we can all feel safe and our law enforcement will feel that they are able to keep us safe.
Okay, well, I used to own a security guard company, and so I know a little bit about throwing big events, okay? We used to hold events at the Green Arena all the time. So the Green Arena is mandated to have an X amount of security guards for an X amount of people, and then they had sheriff departments. So they outsourced police department and they hired, sheriff departments from other counties, and they would come in and help and be support to the security guards. And I think that's something we need to look at. It doesn't always have to necessarily fall back on our police department. What if we start looking for a company that will also work with the police department, like security guard company, or bring sheriff departments from other places who are working events? And if it's possible to do events like this, why not do it downtown? Downtown is the heart of our community, and having events in an area where there's just one entrance and one exit in, that defeats the purpose of having an outdoor event where you're going to feel free and you're going to feel safe and you want to be enjoying with the family. So I think we need to come up with different solutions and different scenarios and what sources or resources we have that we can bring in. So like I said, I used to throw events for thousands of people, and we worked together with the local police department. We worked together with the sheriff's department, and that wasn't enough. Then you hire a security guard company who has experience doing this events, and they're backup with the police department, and there are eyes in our ears. So these events can happen. We just have to be creative, and we have to look for other solutions. What else can we do to support the police department? It can't rely 100% on them. So I say, hiring companies who have expertise in this kind of event, it's a good solution for us to continue to enjoy the events in downtown Morgan Hill.
Thank you. Send the mic back down.
Thank you. Having been at the Garlic Festival in 2019 when shots rang out, and having been there when those who lost their lives were scattered on the field of the Garlic Festival that day, I saw what occurred. I helped those who were wounded to safety, and even helped the police work on two of the victims who lost their lives. I get it. I mean, that's a sight nobody wants to see. Nobody thinks when they get up in the morning, that's what they're going to experience at a community festival. It changes your life. I get it. At the same time, we can't live in fear. We cannot just expect that everything we're going to do now has to be in a bubble. We've got to be able to say and evaluate, and it's the chief's job and it's his responsibility to bring us the understanding of the risk assessment and the threat assessment that could exist. But we just can't always live with the could possibly happen threat assessment. It is the council's responsibility to take the information that the chief and law enforcement officials provide us. We have to sort of work through that and determine what level do we want to apply to these festivals, and how stiff do we want to make these kinds of regulations. I think when we're talking about festivals in the downtown, we certainly have the Freedom Fest, and I have assured the city manager and the police chief that the city council likely will not tolerate moving those festivals out of downtown. Council members can speak for themselves, but I strongly adhere to the fact that we need to keep those festivals. That festival on July 3rd and July 4th has to remain in downtown. That is who we are. That's what we do. Other festivals, we do have to kind of take a look at and consider what options are available, but where we can have activity in downtown, we do need to take a close look at that and see how we can make that work.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Thanks so much. This is it's a tough one. You know, we have the federal best practices that have changed because we are in a changing environment. So we've had the Gilroy Garlic Festival happen, which was a horror. We've had the Ford store happen when I was on council, and a shooting here, which was horrible to experience something like that. And then we've also seen the school shootings that have been going on. This is the reality, folks, right, in the schools. My kids are school aged. I worry about it all the time. What could happen, and you know, what that could mean. So these are real things that we have to think about when we're talking about what we want to do with community festivals. So I understand the need for, you know, the increased security, and I regret that it does. It is an increased cost, and it is going to change the way that we live. But I think what we need to do is we need to have a tough conversation. We've had them before, and there really wasn't much, you know, interest in having that tough conversation prior, but that's what we need to do. We need to understand what is the community threshold. This cannot lie on the shoulders of our chief or on the PD. When we walk out that door, I know that I put myself and my kids at risk if I take them to a concert, if I take them to a roller ring, if I take them to anywhere else. We all know the chance that we take. And that has to be a conversation that we decide, what are we going to allow in our community, and that the council is going to take responsibility along with the PD, along with the chief, and say, hey, this is our threshold. This is what we're comfortable with. And here's what we're going to do, and here's why. And so I would love to be part of that special task force since I initiated the conversation, but you know, I'm not surprised. So thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Back to Sarita.
Okay, well, I feel like I'm repeating myself a little bit from before, you know, acknowledging the reality of the world that we live in. But, you know, I work in a hospital where we do the shooting drills all the time, but we still go to our jobs. We still have to live. So I very much am against living in a world of fear. So I say that we move forward, find a way to adjust to the realities around us, right? So that we can provide a sense of safety for children, a sense of entertainment for our families, bring us together as a community. So I'm gonna do whatever we have to. And can we come up with alternative solutions to assist the police department. Not quite sure what, some of the regulations that they have, can they work with security? I don't know. That is something that I feel like as a city council person, I would probably want to sit down and talk to the chief of police and get a better idea, because me just throwing ideas at them and all of a sudden I find out, no, we're not allowed to do that. That is something I have to take into consideration. They're experts. I am not. I'm just one of the many moms and many residents here that longs for their mushroom Mardi Gras. But what can we do? We have to listen to them. We have to go within the confines of what are some of these regulations. But I think we can do it. We've done it. 4th of July, I was in that parade. I guess somebody could have taken me out as a Where's Waldo, but nobody did, because we live in a, we're friendly, we're a nice town, but I gotta think about that. That is a reality. But we move forward. Don't live in fear is my motto.
Thank you. Michael.
Well, a lot of great points. It looks like I'm batting cleanup, so at least, yeah, base hit will at least score a run. I'm hoping to hit it out of the park. This is about responsibility, and our police chief is responsible for all those souls that go, into those events, and so he's going to say, let's go into one place, one entrance, always. Let's have metal detectors. Heck, let's do live scan on fingerprints. Let's pat everybody down and make sure, I can sleep at night knowing that all the souls are going to go and have some fun, and then they're going to go home and nobody gets hurt. And there's, the opposite of that. There's wide open, like what we've experienced before in the past with some marginal security and whatnot. The responsibility portion is a heavy mantle for our police and for our city council. I've experienced some really fun festivals. One time, the wife and I were in Vancouver. We landed. I was there for some work, and they said, "Hey, there's a fireworks competition on the North Bay." We ran over there, jumped on a bus, and got through it. And we're running along with these people, and suddenly there were these gigantic, massive trucks, military grade, and security with MP5s and all kinds of weapons. And then we went through, and boy, what a light show! Japan versus Canada. It was a great time. They had these huge trucks so that cars couldn't run through and run over everybody. And they had all the security because it was just a really, really international and exciting event. There's a balance, so we've got to find that balance. I've done work with some institutions like Santa Clara University to install roadside electric bollards to help close off the region, so we could look at potentially a particular area.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to economic development. And Miriam, you're the first one to answer this question. Tell us how you think about economic development priorities for the city.
Well, let's see. When I first moved here, there was only like one grocery store, and I was able to buy hay and horse feed, and there wasn't that many traffic lights, and it was just a whole different place. And over the 40 years that I've lived here, I've seen the city grow. And we can't stop economic development. It has to grow. We have to accommodate the people that are coming in, our kids, our grandkids. And so the way I see it is, we have to work with our infrastructure. We can't just decide to build homes and not think about the roadways. I mean, the traffic in Watsonville Road and Santa Teresa, that's close to my district or near my home. It takes me 30 minutes if I leave 2 minutes late out of my house just to get through that traffic. So we have to think about that first. I'm all for having more homes, more affordable homes, having more businesses, and developing the city and still keeping it, bedroom community. But at the same time, we have to think about the infrastructure, our roads. What can we do to improve the traffic? What can we do to lessen the amount of cars in one street? Can we open another one? Can we do something different? Can we offer more parking? I mean, getting a parking spot downtown Morgan Hill on Friday nights it's a lucky thing. If you get one, you are so lucky because after you've driven around for 30 minutes. So I think that it's important that we look at those things. And we need to develop the store. And then another thing is public safety. Do we have enough money to fund our police department? Do we have enough money to fund our fire department or our emergency services? Those also things that we need to take in consideration, because that's part of economic growth and economic development. If we don't have those foundations, then no matter what, how much we grow, we're just not going to be providing our citizens the services they need on a timely manner.
Thank you, Miriam. And can we pass the mic down to Mayor Turner?
Thank you. Yeah, I think what we have to do in order to follow the priorities really have to do with our economic blueprint. That was developed by the Chamber and other organizations a number of years ago, but it's still a relevant document for what we could be doing from an economic development standpoint. In the area of advanced manufacturing and tourism in particular are of great interest to me. Tourism, especially around the area of sports and recreation tourism, something that I've been encouraging our council members to get on board with and make a high priority. But part of that, what we need to do is also look at what are the opportunities that are available to us. We don't want to take everything that comes along, but we want to position ourselves to be in a place where we can take a look at what would be beneficial to our community and then pick and choose. We don't want to lose opportunities because we've failed to plan or prepare or miss out on opportunities. We've got to be in a position to see what's available to us and be able to take advantage of those opportunities as they present themselves. We can always say no, we can always move on to something different, but we don't want to miss an opportunity simply because we just haven't been prepared or not open to the ideas of something that could benefit the community. So primarily, we've got to be looking at the economic blueprint as our foundation to build on, and then be aware and open to opportunities that come along.
Thank you. Yvonne?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. I have to put my glasses on.
Me too.
And tell us how you think about economic development priorities in the city.
Thanks. I think there's a whole lot to unpack there, much more than 2 minutes, but I'll try. Our economic development blueprint, I actually disagree. I think it is time for us to look at that and update it. That was written in 2017. There's something called COVID that has happened since then. So we really need to look at and have a plan rather than just trying to see what sticks. Let's have a plan and follow that plan. I'm an urban planner, and that's what I like to do. Whatever we want to see Morgan Hill become, we have to plan for that. So first of all, the blueprint talks about advanced manufacturing, medical health care, tourism and recreation. I actually added tourism to our strategic priorities and asked the council to do that this last January. And retail, because I see that as a real opportunity for us. So I think that the opportunities for us in economic development is focusing on filling those buildings, advanced manufacturing, which have business-to-business sales, and seeing how we can get that here. Focusing on medical and healthcare. I've been talking about this for years. I stood with the community when they were trying to save St. Louis and Gilroy, and we were able to do that. The county came in, they purchased the hospital. Same thing was happening at regional. I was up there again at regional, and the county is purchasing the hospital. When DePaul, we knew that there was going to be an investment by the county. My opponent and also other colleagues wanted to do other things at that location right next door to DePaul. And those are things that we need to look at, opportunities of what we need. It's a healthcare desert here. So those are some of the areas that we need to look at and focus on. We have to define our priorities, look at the opportunities, and then we need to chase it down. We need a spec sheet that tells us what it is we want, and we need to go and find that, not just everything.
Thank you, Yvonne. Soraya.
Thank you. So yeah, as our community grows, we need income to sustain a lot of the things that we need. We want our roads fixed. We want to support our police department. We're going to need revenue. So that means we're going to have to attract as much business as we can. Not all kinds of businesses, obviously, but we want businesses that are going to provide local jobs, right? We're going to want businesses that encourage people to stay and live in Morgan Hill. I actually commute an hour and a half to get to work all the time. I would love to see a hospital here in town. We're very underserved as a community, and it drives me insane that if you're in an emergency, you have a tiny little hospital down in Gilroy that may or may not have room in their little tiny ICU. If you're a Kaiser member, then you can drive 25 minutes to get to their Kaiser. And if you're unlucky, such as I was a year ago, I had to drive 45 minutes. So would I love to bring in more medical? Yes, that is going to be a huge focus for me. I want to bring more doctor's offices, a same-day surgery center, a hospital if I can. Anything to support that. That brings in a lot of revenue. Those doctors and nurses, and I can attest to this, because I spend a lot of money in Santa Cruz on my time off. They are going to want to live here, hopefully, and spend their money here, and so will the patients and their families. So bring them on. I think that that will kill two birds with one stone. It'll meet our needs as a community, and it'll bring in some revenue.
Thank you, Sarah. Michael?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this is the cornerstone of my campaign. The economic development part in terms of, what does Morgan Hill want to be? Do we want to be a veteran community for the Silicon Valley? Or do we want to have an opportunity for people to live and work in Morgan Hill dream? And so with the housing that is coming and the limited supply of zone residential land, when we run out of residential land, we're going to again go back to LAFCO and we're going to ask to expand, and they're going to say, well, you're reserving all this commercial land for the right industry, focusing on finding the right kinds of businesses, but you haven't done anything, you haven't utilized that land. In fact, you have open space here and I need you to infill before we're going to allow you to grow. And in that moment, I said it the other night, in that moment, the dream's going to be gone. The jobs will get wiped out by more residential, and that land that we designed the infrastructure for that commercial and industrial land use will be gone. So it's also about, in this focusing, let's focus on finding the right industry. Let's focus in on bringing in doctors and nurses into town. We need trainable jobs. We need discrete manufacturing and industry that focuses on trainable jobs like CNC milling and assembly. These types of companies, they have finance teams and project managers and executives and engineers and manufacturing, all trainable, all jobs that residents in Morgan Hill can attain. This good neighbor policy that we have in Silicon Valley, where we don't go after those jobs, those companies, and try to pull them into Morgan Hill, that's got to end.
Thank you very much. David.
I look at this as you want business revenue, i.e. economic development, you want taxes. I choose the revenue part. 70% of our residents travel up north to commute, some to high-paying jobs, some to low-paying jobs. Butterfield 5, Cochrane Tech Plaza, latest and greatest in buildings to bring in R&D, advanced manufacturing, health and science, high-paying jobs. But we need to fill the void with those lower-paying jobs so that people that live here can work here as well. We know that a car lot can buy 2.5 cops. A hotel buys 1.5 cops. Big business, big store like a Costco buys 4.5 cops. But you know what we don't know? We don't know what the residents of Morgan Hill would like. Would they like taxes or would they like business revenue? My thought is we hire a consultant, we develop a survey that's a citywide survey, and take a look to see what you want. Do you want to be a bedroom community? Or do you want to be a community that you can live here, work here, and not have high taxes?
Thank you, Dave. Let's pass it back down to Mayor Turner.
Can I take the rest of the time?
So a follow-up question to the economic development question. What specific criteria or thought process do you use to evaluate your priority projects?
Yeah, again, I would go back to the event or the economic development, the blueprint. Much of what my colleague here just actually rattled off really falls into that category of the economic blueprint. And so those are the things that we believe those are still relevant industries to pursue. Then that's part of that criteria. What brings us jobs? And the types of jobs, much like housing, where we need to have affordable to executive level. We need to have job opportunities here from entry level to high paying jobs. And so we have to look at what are those opportunities, what comes our way. We need to be prepared for those, as I said earlier. We've got to be in a position to be able to draw and bring into our community various kinds of jobs or various kinds of businesses that provide the jobs we're looking for. So as long as they fit within what we are now considering as our economic blueprint, the document that we would use in order to sort of go out and pursue businesses, then how do they impact our community? Jobs, taxes, how do they invest? How are they helping, promoting, and assisting our community and becoming partners in our community as well? These jobs, these companies, whether large or small, these are the companies that hire local talent, they pay local taxes, and they support local nonprofits. And so we need to do our best to find those businesses that fit best in our community that can benefit all of us.
Thank you, Mary Turner. Yvonne.
One more time, please.
Sure. What specific criteria or thought process do you use to evaluate your priority projects?
Thank you. Well, I think that's shifted with time on the council. In particular, what I'll be looking for now is, as I said, to fill the buildings that we have first, and that is to look at advanced manufacturing. I'm really interested in us trying to capture businesses that do have business-to-business sales tax, because not only will we generate property taxes from them, but we will also get sales tax from the sales that they do to other businesses, and that will benefit us. So I think that's important to look at. I think it's important to look at the ability to create jobs. And that's why I stood with voters when they were not for distribution centers. Distribution centers do not have jobs. Many of them are automated. They don't have high paying jobs. They have lots of traffic that they bring. They have other negative impacts that our community has to absorb. And that was all why I didn't support that. And so looking at, is it a clean industry? Also looking, is it a sustainable industry? We've been talking a lot about advanced manufacturing, but let's even drill in farther than that. Advanced manufacturing, some of these are being banned. Some of the chemicals they use or processes they use. So if we're looking for advanced manufacturing, I also want us to look at what types of advanced manufacturing so that we can recruit businesses that are going to be sustainable and have longevity as we become dependent on those incomes. So these are some of the factors. Also, how do they work with the community, right? Is this something that we want to see? Again, I'll go back to the auto mall. My vision for Morgan Hill is not to have an auto mall at our entrance. When we are saying that we want to double down on tourism and recreation, we have wineries here, we have culinary expertise that we're trying to create. Why in the world, when we've already zoned for auto malls and we already have some, why would we do that right next to where we have our medical facility? It makes no sense. And so we need to use common sense.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Soraya?
So I'm gonna have you repeat the question again, sorry.
Sure. What specific criteria
Yes.
or thought process do you use to evaluate economic development projects?
So I'm going to be wanting to look at the benefit overall to our community, right? What are they bringing? The number of jobs that they could bring bringing, not just high level, but also mid-level jobs. What are they going to bring in terms of that? Are they going to be impacting our roads? I, for one, don't really want to see a lot more semi trucks going through my town. So is it that kind of business that you're going to be bringing? That I'm not a big fan of. But you know, I'm willing to see what is the plan for this company that's looking at our town. I also want to see, is the company going to be, I guess, bringing people that are willing to live in our city as well. Be nice to have less commuters. So if they can actually work in these types of industries and live in our town, I'm all for that as well. I know that I travel a lot with my children for different events, and we go down to Southern California. So I think that hotels are actually a very profitable source of business income to the cities. Because I know that I spend a lot of money when we go down for events for hockey. So speaking firsthand, these are very good industries to bring. We need more hotels to, you know, provide a place to stay for some of the families that we want. If we want tourism, they gotta have a place to stay. So these are some of the things that I'm probably gonna wanna be encouraging on city council.
Okay, thank you. Michael.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, I didn't wake up one day in Morgan Hill and said, I live in the Morgan Hill dream. I've got a business. You know, I left a high-paying electrical engineering job in the Silicon Valley, one that I commuted for many years, helped me afford my home and whatnot. You know, my wife and I made the decision. She had some faith in me and said, go for it, start this business. And I was able to utilize an ordinance in the city of Morgan Hill that allows home-based businesses to start my business and grow cost effectively and then, you know, suddenly I had some employees, and then now I'm hitting the bumper rails of what's allowed. So I had to go find a shingle, and I did, and we've grown even more. That ordinance hasn't been modified. No one's looked at it in a long time to say, hey, how can we help small business expand and grow? Well, let's feed our opportunities. People are the opportunities. Morgan Hill people are the opportunities. In terms of, and so I'd like to work with the business development team to review that ordinance and to make some changes for the better to help grow small businesses, put some economic pressure on our developers. Because when I went to look for a lease, it was really hard to find a small business shingle. And, you know, we've had to move once, but we're pretty happy where we are right now, but not a lot of spaces for small business. So with low vacancy rates, developers will build. Utilization's the key, you know, in terms of our commercial land and our industrial land. Look at the Butterfield self-storage. It's not a job creator, but it's utilizing that land, and that land will never become residential. That land has an opportunity for future redevelopment in a specific industry with jobs. And so these fulfillment centers that might look like they don't have jobs, they're not going to be residential.
Thank you, Michael.
And I'm not for fulfillment centers.
David.
I certainly support bringing in business and expanding those that we have so that both the lower, middle, and the upper class income people can live and work and after work go to Safeway here instead of stopping at Safeway on Blossom Hill Road on the way down. There's some other criteria that we have to look at as well. To have a regional entity come to any town, there's a magic number of 50,000 population. We're not there yet. And we've likely missed out on some opportunities because of our population is not there yet, but we'll be there soon. So that's one criteria that you have to look at. Another is consultants have said that we are, what do they call it? Activity. No. We are over retailed. And what they mean is per our population, per our geographics, there's too much retail. But what we're looking to do, or what we should have, is activity-based retail, like the Burger Cliff place, where you go in and you make a pot and then you go have dinner and then you come back and paint it. That's activity-based retail. That's something that we should be looking at. And then as we move on to growing sports and growing activities outside, we should be looking more into having sports kind of retailers. You know, we lost the Big Five, but things like that. And as we grow this, as our community, our swim center down there grows, and we bring in more people to our town on these weekends, we will need those retailers, and that is great for our tax revenue.
Thank you, David. Marion.
The way that I would look at a business is I want to partner. When businesses come on into Morgan Hill, I want to be a partner with them. I would like to look at the mid-sized businesses, businesses who employ 300 to 500 employees. And they offer different kinds of entry-level jobs, mid-level jobs, and high-paying jobs. It has to be a company that has responsible growth. It's something that is not going to be here for a couple of years and then leave. So I would hope that the businesses that come in want to partner up with Morgan Hill and we can grow together. Morgan Hill is growing and it's going to continue to grow. And the businesses that come into Morgan Hill should be looking at that. But I think mid-sized businesses is something we need to look at. A lot of our businesses in Morgan Hill are already mid-sized, and they're going to be with us for a very long time because they have responsible growth. They're not looking to grow, double the size in a year. They're going to do it slowly, and hopefully they're going to grow up with our city. And that's something that I'm looking for in businesses that come into Morgan Hill. Something that doesn't add more pollution. Something that is not going to add additional traffic, because God knows we don't need that. And also look into what can we do to fill up those empty buildings that we have. What businesses can help us? We're going to help them, but at the same time, they also need to help us, and that's when a partnership comes in. So those are the kinds of things that I would look up and to bring into a business into Morgan Hill.
Thank you, Mary. Why don't we leave the mic down there? We're actually running out of time, so we're going to go into closing statements. We started at this side of the table for opening statements. Why don't we start at that side of the table for closing? And Miriam, you're up, and we've got 3 minutes each.
Sorry I was not here for my opening statement, but this is my closing statement. I'm determined. I am loyal. I am committed to bringing those values in the city council. I will stay informed of your issues in the District A, as well as wider issues of our city. I will create collaborative and inclusive environment that listens to the community and works for the best result for our community. I am ready to hear your issues and ideas. You can count on me to time, and this is part of my closing statement, but I'm also an educator. I have learned patience. I have learned how to go on change every day. My students keep me on my toes. So I'm used to going and moving with change and adapting to change. And those are all the things that I bring to the table. I was also a business owner here in Morgan Hill. So I have the experience. I've been here 40 years. I raised my son here. I love Morgan Hill. I'm dedicated to my city. And just having been part of different aspects of Morgan Hill and have lived different times of my life in Morgan Hill, I am your candidate to represent my district. And I will always work hard, and I'm very, very diligent. And like I said, and I'm super patient, and I'm open to ideas. And I'm here to listen and work hard for our city, not just my district. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. David.
As a business owner, downtown for 10 years, I've been an entrepreneur for over 40 years. And the volunteering that I've done throughout the years for the city, I love the city. I'm passionate about it. And I think I'm the right person. In my first 100 days, I'll learn, I'll absorb, I'll add things to the agenda. I'll ask the tough questions, and I too will support all of Morgan Hill. I will put your interests before mine and before anyone else's.
Thank you, David. Michael.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate this format. It's been great tonight. A lot of great ideas for Morgan Hill, a lot of hopes. So yeah, it's right here. I want to thank you all for listening tonight and wanting to be informed about the candidates that will potentially lead our city for the next 2 or 4 years, make their case why they should lead. My case tonight is simple. I am that young man from Turlock who drove over the hill and fell in love with our city, Morgan Hill, at the age of 16. That kid saw this town and wondered how he could find his way there someday and really start living. I achieved that goal in 2009 and used the last 15 years serving Morgan Hill as a planning commissioner, as well as creating a small business and achieving for myself and my employees the live and work in Morgan Hill dream. As a council member, I will be the champion of compromise. I am the independent in the race, and I am not beholden to any single party or ideology. There are no groups or parties supporting or funding my election, hoping that I win and expecting concessions or deals in the future. I believe in quality public services such as a quality police force and fire department, clean and abundant drinking water, and maintained streets and public services, public spaces. So let me conclude with reminding you all of these things I have told you tonight about myself and my hope for Morgan Hill, but let me add these points. Morgan Hill, now more than ever, needs to decide what our future will be. Time is running out, and we need leadership that is determined to foster this decision. Does Morgan Hill want to be a bedroom community where we only provide housing for all the jobs in Silicon Valley? Or will Morgan Hill purposely elect the representatives that will create the policies that will encourage diverse commercial and industrial industries to utilize our planned job creating land? Morgan Hill has meant so much to me. It is my home, my lifestyle, and where my business thrives. I'm running for city council and providing voters with a choice. In that choice, the key difference is experience. I may be a political newcomer, but I'm ready to hit the ground running as your city representative. I'd be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Soraya.
Well, thank you again for taking the time out tonight to come and listen to us. I actually really appreciate that. And I am new to this, like I said early on, but I look forward to the challenges. I'm used to learning. I'm used to facing really difficult situations. I'm very accustomed to understanding how to balance, the needs of the people that I'm trying to help. And I have to be very cognizant of being fiscally responsible for the hospital that I work with. I have to know the laws that are coming down constantly that affect my job. So I'm going to be very well prepared for this kind of scenario with the city council. I'm quick on my feet and I'll learn. We have a great city staff. I've been meeting with various individuals to learn what they have to do. I will do my best to get caught up as quickly as I can once I get the job, if I'm lucky enough, Mike. But in the end, the person who I am, I'm a nurse. I'm used to serving. I respect the values of anybody I come across. I want to work with people, find creative solutions. There's some tough situations that we as a community have to face, and I'm used to that. We have to be creative, gotta listen to each other, we have to respect one another, and that is who I am in a nutshell. I will work with whoever I have to work with to benefit my city. That is the number one thing for me. How is this gonna help Morgan Hill? I have a servant's heart. I'm very humbled with this whole experience. I was telling Mr. Carr, when I saw my name on a sign in somebody's front yard, I almost started crying because it was very humbling. At that point, I became very well, this person is putting their trust in me. And because of that, I know that I have to work so hard to live up, hopefully, to that person's expectations and hopes for our city. I'm not beholden to anybody. I do have my own strong opinions and I will voice them because that's what nurses do. We fight for our patients' rights. We fight with the insurance companies all the time. I'm pretty feisty, actually. So no, I do not feel that I'm beholden to anybody with this race. And I thank you for your support if I have it out there. And again, thank you for the time for listening to me. This has been a wonderful experience, but very humbling. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for taking the time out of your evenings to be here. What am I going to do as mayor? We're going to focus on public safety. We're going to focus on prosperity for the city, for the residents, and for businesses. We're going to focus on people. I didn't talk too much about that, but on people. The only people I'm beholden to is you. What kind of mayor do you want for your Morgan Hill? somebody who's accessible except when difficult, controversial conversations come forward and that have a significant impact on our community. And can't really get them to hear the community's vision of Morgan Hill, but is sure to show up when special interests and developers are trying to sell their vision of Morgan Hill. Or do you want somebody who's an advocate for you? Do you want somebody who understands and is listening to your vision of Morgan Hill, city, residents, businesses, and putting that together for us? I have, as I've said before, I have the qualifications, I have the experience, I have the relationships to get the job done. And I have the moxie, the conviction to get things done. So not only with staff, not only with elected, but also with our city staff, and that's important. I've shared with you my endorsements all the way from local level to the state and federal level, because I have been on these boards where I'm legislating, going to Sacramento. I serve as the state chair for the League of Cities Housing Policy Committee, which is that's an incredible reach that I am able to work with other elected officials throughout the state of California and understand how they're doing things in their community and bring that back. As I shared, I'm most proud of the endorsement that I have by the community. Communities voted me in twice, and in both cases, I won by a landslide. Our campaign is made up and supported by everyday people like you and me. The reason I won is because my love for Morgan Hill is not just in word, but it's demonstrated by my advocacy and my voting record for the community, and I encourage you to check that out. So I will ask you to walk with us, to join us, to support us, donate, tell your neighbors, tell your family and friends to be informed and to vote. Ask them to meet the candidates, ask questions, and do their homework to really understand who they are, what their values are, and where they will lead us. Our team is as diverse in ethnicity, age, and talent. I advocate for you, I listen to you, and that means everyone. I want a Morgan Hill for everybody, for working families, for businesses, for children, for youth, for everybody. I meet with both sides of the issues to try and understand the issue from every side and get to the best solution. And it isn't easy. Thank you.
Mayor Kermit.
Thank you. Thank you to the Chamber and the Kiwanis. Very professionally run event tonight. Thank you so much. When I ran for office 2 years ago, I said that if elected, I would leave my full-time job in order to be present and available to the residents here in Morgan Hill, community members, and so on. I've done just that. I believe it's important to be true to your word, as it's the foundation for building trusted relationships in and with the community. Over the last 20 to 22 months, I've met with nearly one-on-one with approximately 500 residents, community members, business owners, nonprofit organizations, concerned citizens, and people interested in moving to Morgan Hill. That is advocacy. Leadership does matter, and having 10 years of executive leadership running an organization, along with leading the Silicon Valley Coalition of Business Organizations, has allowed me an easy transition into my role as mayor. I run more efficient meetings. I've been able to keep the council focused and on task, and started the council meetings earlier to allow for more participation by the community. Since taking office, I've introduced 3 community-wide initiatives: a literacy initiative designed to help improve 3rd grade reading proficiency, a workforce development initiative aimed at providing work path options to students coming out of high school, and a Healthy Morgan Hill initiative designed to improve access to healthy options for all residents. I've established the Guacamole Trail. We call it the Guac Walk. It's in order to promote and work with our Mexican restaurants here to bring them more business. I've worked successfully with regional partners to keep the Bay Area Panthers headquartered here in Morgan Hill. I push for more public art while bringing an option to fund that public art. I've conducted a CEO roundtable event at Shoe Palace with CEOs, business owners, and commercial real estate brokers to learn of their concerns and their opportunities. I meet regularly with John Varela at Valley Water to ensure our critical water projects are moving forward, and recently lobbied the Valley Water Board for additional funding, which was successful in allowing us to complete the Upper Yaugus Creek Flood Control Project within the next 3 years. I've worked to address homeless issues with local business owners. I have been promoting the sports and recreation opportunities at the outdoor sports complex, And I've launched a 501c3 nonprofit organization with other community members to raise awareness and money to enhance our sports fields. I volunteer with over a half dozen organizations here in Morgan Hill, and I have personally raised more than $500,000 for 7 other nonprofit organizations. Again, that is advocacy. I put my years of experience to work on behalf of Morgan Hill, and I'm looking forward to continue that work. I'd ask you to join me as we continue to bring Morgan Hill together, move Morgan Hill forward, and make Morgan Hill the best it can be. I'd be honored to have you vote. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the Morgan Hill Chamber of Commerce and Kiwanis, I'd like to thank all the candidates for their time and effort today. I'd also like to thank the community for attending, and thank you very much. We, I believe, have this room till 8 p.m. So the candidates are free to interact with the public during that time. I do believe we have to be out of here by around 8. So thank you, everybody. Thanks a lot and good night.